For today's review, we are looking at Batman Beyond from the Futures End build wave, and we'll also be looking at the solo release version as well, because instead of separating them into two different videos, I might as well just talk about the similarities and the differences on one. And with that said, before I dive into talking about the accessories and of course both the figures, let's take a quick look at the data profile cards that are included for each figure. So as you can see, they are using action figure photography, which I do love to see. And for the Futures End Build Wave version, you have Batman Beyond confronting the Joker bot. And what I like about this entire build wave is that each photo for the card kind of captures like a little story of some kind. So that's pretty cool. And for the solo version, you have an image of him flying across the night sky in the city, like he's doing his nightly patrols. So there is that. And on the back side, the read-up information is the same, which I will read one of these cards. But how you know that one of these cards are older than the other one is that the height and weight information is present on this solo release version. And that's how you know this card is really old, because they don't have that anymore on the newer data profile cards. And for the Futures End one right here, I'm pretty sure what I have is a reprinted version, because there was a period where Mcfarlane's own toy store on their, online store, they had this build wave as a bundle that you can buy. And I think it was like a re-release of it for people who missed out on it originally when it came out as a Target store exclusive. And here's a little history lesson for those of you that don't know. This entire build wave was released as a year-long build wave at Target stores. So basically, the way to get each figure was that you would have to go to Target every couple months whenever the next one released. So, for example, Batman Beyond released in January. After you get it, you would have to wait till maybe April or May for the second figure in the wave. And they did this with two other build waves that came after, such as the Crime Syndicate build wave and, of course, the Flashpoint build wave. But over time, people were kind of fed up with it because it was just very annoying. And if you want to complete a build figure that just looks cool, you just want to do it right away. You don't want to wait for, the pieces. So that's why this year, and even I think last year, they pretty much just gave up on the concept of it because it just wasn't doing good. The concept was, I don't know, maybe it was a deal that they made with Target or something with store exclusives. I'm not sure, but it was just not a great concept for us consumers, especially if you're trying to build a build figure that looks pretty badass. All right, with that said, let's read the back of one of these cards, and let's read this one. So his real name is Terrence Terry McGinnis. He is 6 feet in height, and he weighs 198 pounds. And it reads, Terry McGinnis was just an ordinary teenager until his father was mysteriously killed. Suspecting foul play, Terry meets an older, bitter Bruce Wayne and learns a secret hidden for decades. When Bruce refuses to help, Terry steals and dons a high-tech, tricked-out batsuit in a quest to avenge his father's death as Batman. And that's a really good read-up on his origin, because that's pretty much how the first episode of Batman Beyond started, right? His father gets murdered, and then the rest is pretty much history. All right, and now let's talk about the accessories. So this is the first key difference right here. So with the Futures End version, he comes with these two batarangs, which are more accurate to the animation, because if I remember correctly, these were the ones that he would pull out in the cartoons. So he comes with two of these, which is really awesome. And for the solo version, he came with this batarang, which I don't think he ever used in the show. I don't remember ever seeing this. I've seen this more, and this is the difference between the two of them. And yeah, I like this one more than this one. So, and in terms of the hands, they both come with the same sets of item holding hands. So let me just show what they look like. It's the same one for the solo as well. So there's that, and that's meant to hold the batarang. And what the solo version has that the build figure version doesn't have is the fact that he came with these flame effects for his thrusters and his feet. Because if you know anything about this character, he can fly, right? And his shoes have like this sort of like jetpack. I don't know what the heck to call it, but it can shoot fire out and then he can fly in the sky. So there is that. And I like this effect piece. So he comes with 2 of those. And of course, they come with the usual DC figure stand, which I don't ever include as an accessory because there's really no point of that. So, all right. And now, let's talk about the aesthetics. Let's start with the Future's End version. In terms of the overall sculpt here, I really like the slenderness of how he looks like because this is exactly what he looks like in the cartoons. He has a slimmer build than, Batman does when he was in his prime. And his costume is very simplistic. Like, there's not a whole lot of details with the Batman Beyond costume. It's literally just all black with little bits of red on it. So, in terms of being accurate here to the suit design, that's pretty much what it looks like. Now, as for the sculpting details that are present, you do have his bat logo right here, which I really like that it is sculpted. This was during the time where they were still sculpting the logos instead of heavily printing them. So I do like the fact that this is big and centered. And also his belt down here is also another cool part because it has like elements of red and silvers on it. And I think these are supposed to be like the pouch pockets or something for the tech that he stores onto the suit. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And one thing for those of you that don't know, there are a lot of like wires and electronics inside his suit. Because even though his suit is made out of like fabric, there was one episode, I think, where we did see a little bit of it get battle damage. And underneath the fabric, there's like a lot of like electronic parts in here, which I don't know how the heck they made this suit. Was it using nanotechnology or something? But it's fictional. So imagine a fabric suit that could do all that, right? That's just crazy. So yeah. And in terms of the details on his arm, he does have these sort of arm guards here, and he does have these straps that are just all painted in black, which I don't remember exactly what they look like in the cartoon, because again, even in the cartoon, his design was very simplistic. So some of these details might not be as present even in his animation design. Now, in terms of his face sculpt, this one has this sort of mouth guard that covers his nose and his mouth, which I'm not familiar with. I don't remember ever seeing him wear anything like this in the show. So I don't exactly know what's going on here, but you do have some details right there on the side, right? Like these little vents or something. I don't know what to call those. But yeah, there is this head sculpt, which I don't hate it, but it's very different from how I remember the character. Now, for the solo version, since majority of the figure is the same, and the only differences are the head sculpt, this one has the more accurate head sculpt. This is the one that I think most of you, including myself, remembers when we think of this character, right? He has his nose, his mouth, like all of that is visible. As you notice, the eyes on this one are quite smaller, and the eyes on here are much bigger. So I don't know what's going on with the differences here. Like, is this more of like a mask that he would put on for certain situations? I'm not too sure. But those are the differences between these two figures when it comes to just the differences. Because everything else, it's exactly the same. So, yeah. This is one of those cases where you might be wondering, how come they couldn't have just packed this head sculpt in with the build figure version? And it's like, well, you know how it is with Mcfarlane. He was never keen with alternate head sculpts back in the day. He would always like release an alternate head sculpt with a separate release of the figure again to reuse the body buck. So this is basically why this is a thing. So there is that. And now let's talk about the other aesthetic of this figure, which is of course his wings. So most of the time his wings, when he's not using them, they're not, hanging on the back like a cape, right? Like, that's not how the suit design is. So, this is literally just inaccurate, but I don't really blame him for doing this because, how else would you give him his wings, right? they have to be on the back of him in some ways. So the cool thing about this is that the wings here, they can basically spread out like this, so you can get him to use his wings if you want to make it look like he's flying. And do you see these little ports right here? So these right here fit onto a little peg down here on the underside of his arm. And if you want him to look like he's gliding through the night sky or something, what you basically do is you match up this area up here with that port, and as you can see, there's a little click noise, it goes in. And once you do that, you do the same for this side. Let me just get this in. There you go. And now he looks like he's pretty much going to fly off somewhere, right? So that's really cool that they did that. And another thing that you could probably do with these wings as well is that you can remove them. For those of you that don't know, these wings are removable. However, it's not meant to be removed. So the trick here is that if you use a hairdryer or hot water, if you put the figure into like hot water, you can pop this off of the socket that is right there. As you can see, there's like a lip that's holding this entire piece for the wings, and it will just come out. However, the problem with this trick is that you will have this hole on the back of him with this large gap in between, which looks really ugly from the back side. So if they sculpted this without this sort of gimmick on the back here for the wings, it would have been a cleaner look. But of course, if you want to have the wings on, you have to deal with things like this. So in that case, it really is up to preference. If you don't want the wings on the figure, well, you just pop it off. And it's not that hard to do just by using the same methods to loosen the tightness of joints. So yeah. And that's pretty much all the aesthetics of this figure, because there's not really anything else going on here. Like, a lot of the details are pretty much simplistic. And again, it's all just black when it comes to a suit because that's what it looks like. And yeah. Now, let's talk about the articulation of this figure. And let's start with the head sculpt. So if you want him to look up while he's flying, he can do exactly that. If you want him to look down, he can also do that. Turn his head side to side, not a problem. Tilt his head side to side, also not a problem. So when it comes to the range of movement with the head sculpt, it's pretty good. As for his arms, they do go out this far. They can swing back and forth, which is not an issue. As long as the wings are down, he will not run into them. As for the articulation up here, he does have bicep swivel. He also has double jointed in the arms, and he has swivel in his hands, and also wrist articulation, which also has a swivel. So there is that movement. As for his torso, the upper part of it, there is articulation there. So let me just pull the wings out. He does rotate pretty good in terms of leaning forward. He does lean forward a little bit. It's not the best, but he can do that. In terms of leaning back, not the greatest when it comes to leaning back. And for his waist articulation down here on this copy, it is stiff. So I'm going to bring in the other copy because it does move. There is rotation there. As you can see, it does work. But in terms of leaning forward, you're not going to get much in that department. In terms of leaning back, the waist down here does allow him to lean back pretty good. So yeah, there is that whole thing. And for his legs, he can do the splits. Kinda. Not like a full-on split, but that's still pretty good right there. So in terms of kicking, that's as far as you're going to get his legs to kick, because the waist part right up here is hard plastic. This was before they started using soft PVC for the waist pieces. So just want to point that out. As for double jointed, he does have that. As for his feet articulation, he does have movement there, and toe articulation, and of course swivel down here. In terms of the upper thigh swivels, they do move a little bit, as you can see, not the greatest. And that's pretty much all the articulation for Batman Beyond. Before I dive into comparisons, let me show what this guy looks like on a flight stand with some of the effect parts. from the other figure because I think it would be a cool showcase here. So let's do exactly that. So I'm going to swap out this hand right here, and we're going to give him one of these item holding hands that he has. So let's do that. And as you can see, it goes right in with no problems. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get him onto a flight stand, which is not a problem, as you can see. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take the thruster effects, like these parts right here from the solo release version. I'm going to put these into his feet down here. So it looks like he's flying, right? Let's do the same on this side. And I dropped it. There's that. Okay, there we go. So we got him in some sort of flying position. And now let's have him hold a batarang in his hand. Simple. And there you go. So as you can see, if you get him into some sort of flying pose with those thruster effects, if you have the other version, it makes for a really cool figure to have on a shelf, especially when you have him on a flight stand like this. So I really like how this turned out, and the fact that you can intermix the accessories between either version of the Batman Beyond figures is pretty cool. So there he is with the accessories. And now I'm going to bring in some other figures for some comparisons, and let's use the solo version for the comparisons part because, you know, they're both the same figures anyway, so you can expect the height to be the same as well, right? That's obvious. So let's have him right there. And let's bring in Ink, who was another figure that used the same body buck here. And we'll talk more about what I think about the whole Ink as Batman Beyond figure when I make the review for this one, because this has to be its own video. So, but there are the two of them and the differences in the colors, but they are the same exact body bucks. And here he is next to his Kryptonite suit, I believe is what this version is called. That was from the 2-pack with the Justice Lord Superman. And it, of course, is a reuse of the same body buck, but with some different colors and different sets of wings. And, of course, last but not least, let's have the Future's End version back here with the solo one. And there it is, the differences again, which there's not a whole lot of differences going on here. So, yeah, in terms of having both of these figures, I enjoy having both of them, even if they're exactly the same, but just with a different head sculpt. But for the shelf, when it comes to the whole Batman Beyond side of things, I really like how this came out. Now, I don't have the newer one that came out recently to compare to these, so that is one that I do need to pick up, and I hope that I can make a review for that in the future. But that's going to wrap it up for the comparisons and all of that, and I hope you found today's review of both of these Batman Beyonds enjoyable, and I hope I did a good job here because this is the first time I've done this in a while where we looked at two different figures, kinda. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.